Hi, my name is Mia, and you're watching Disney Channel. Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Of course, my name is Mia, and I am here to tell you guys that I'm starting this channel. I'm giving you a synopsis, which is like basically a summary of what I'm going to be talking about on my channel. I'm not going to bore you guys with the details of my farm life, though I might take you guys on there for a vlog one day. It's definitely going to be about managing your time, your friends, your boyfriend, your school, and, you know, just being able to do everything in one swoop and be able to, because, man, I feel like Princess Diana.
A young woman full of life, ambition, and dreams steps into a car with someone she trusts. Hours later, she is found lying in the middle of the road, gravely injured and left alone in the darkness. The person behind the wheel, a close friend, never stopped, never called for help, never looked back. Instead, she went to the police, not to report what happened, but to file a complaint about a missing phone. What happened in the early hours of June 3, 2023, on a quiet street in Southfield, Michigan, is a story of betrayal, unanswered questions, and a search for justice that left many wondering, was this a tragic accident, a careless mistake, or something else entirely? Mia Kanu was 23 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. Those who knew her say she had a warmth that could light up a room, a kindness that made everyone feel seen. She had goals, a future carefully planned, and a heart full of love for animals and people alike. Yet on that night, all of that was taken from her. The people she trusted the most would become part of an unfolding tragedy, one that would leave a community in shock and a family searching for answers. Why didn't Kensha Fern stop? Why did she keep driving? What really happened in those final moments before Mia fell from that moving car? Today, we uncover the story piece by piece. Stay with me because this case is far from simple.
If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Here at Explosive True Crime Stories, we uncover shocking cases, mysterious disappearances, and mind-blowing investigations, bringing you the facts, the twists, and the truth. Got a case you want us to cover? Drop it in the comments. Your next obsession starts here. Fire subscribe now for the most explosive true crime stories.
Mia Kanu was the kind of person whose presence filled a room with energy. She had a warmth about her, something that made people feel safe, seen, and valued. Those who knew her described her as kind-hearted, funny, and endlessly supportive. She wasn't just a friend, she was the kind of person who made life feel brighter. But on the night of June 3, 2023, that light was extinguished in a way that left many questioning how something so devastating could happen. Born on January 25, 2000, Mia was raised in Lansing, Michigan by her parents, Bianca Van Meter and Sori Kanu. She grew up in a household filled with love, where family meant everything. From a young age, she showed a deep love for animals, something that would later shape her dreams and ambitions. She wanted to make a difference in the world, and she was well on her way to doing just that. By 23, Mia had built a life that reflected her passions. She was a student at Tennessee State University, working toward becoming a veterinarian. She wasn't just studying for a degree, she was already active in the field, working as a veterinary assistant at Richland Animal Clinic. She had a strong work ethic, a dedication to caring for animals, and a determination that made her stand out. People who worked alongside her saw her potential and knew she was destined for something great. But Mia wasn't just about academics and work. She had an entire side of her life that was filled with joy, laughter, and creativity. She loved dancing, a passion that was evident in the videos she shared online. Whether it was a simple clip of her moving to the rhythm of her favorite songs or moments shared with friends, she brought enthusiasm into everything she did. She was also deeply invested in beauty and lifestyle content. She shared videos about hair care, makeup, and organization, topics she was passionate about. She was building something, creating a presence in the digital world that reflected her personality. She surrounded herself with people she believed were her friends, people she trusted, but trust can be deceptive. Some friendships only last in the good moments, disappearing when real loyalty is put to the test. Mia had no idea that someone she considered a close friend would leave her behind when she needed help the most. Mia was home for the summer, enjoying time with friends before heading back to school in the fall. That night, she attended a house party, a gathering meant to be full of fun and celebration. She left with someone she had known for a long time, someone she trusted, Kensha Fern. The two had spent countless hours together before, sharing laughs, conversations, and experiences. There was no reason to believe that the events of that night would take such a terrible turn. But something happened between the time Mia got into that car and the moment she was found lying in the middle of Providence Drive, something that turned an ordinary night out into an irreversible tragedy. The question is, why? Kentia Fern was behind the wheel of the silver Jeep Compass that night. The two drove away from the party, heading toward what should have been a routine ride home, but minutes later something went wrong. Mia fell from the moving vehicle, landing hard on the pavement. The impact was severe, leaving her critically injured. The natural reaction would have been to stop, to rush to her side, to call for help. Instead, the car kept going. Mia was left alone in the dark, the road silent except for the occasional passing vehicle. No one from that car turned around. No call was made to emergency services. There was no immediate effort to find her, no frantic search to check if she was okay. Instead, Kentia drove straight to the police station. But what she reported that night had nothing to do with Mia. She wasn't there to tell the police that her friend had fallen out of the car. She wasn't asking for an ambulance, wasn't pleading for help. She was there to report that her boyfriend had taken her phone. That was her priority, her phone. Meanwhile, Mia was still out there, suffering, exposed to the elements with no one by her side. She had been left behind by the very person she had trusted to get her home safely. Minutes passed, then hours. It wasn't until 4:30 in the morning, nearly 4 hours later, that a passing driver spotted her lifeless body in the middle of the road. That was when help finally arrived. That was when the authorities were called. But by then, it was already too late. What kind of person does that? What kind of friend keeps driving knowing someone has fallen from their vehicle? And what really happened in those moments before Mia fell? Was it an accident? Or was there something more to this story? Mia's family was about to learn that the search for answers wouldn't be simple.
On 4:30 in the morning, a passerby discovered Mia laying along Providence Drive in front of the Coach House Apartments. Her mother tells me police told her Mia was ejected from a car hours prior.
There was no deformities, no disfigurements, nothing of that magnitude that at that point in time that would imply any types of assault.
Police did confirm to us that Mia did have some level of abrasions on her body when she was found. According to her mother, family did see her before she went out that night.
She did come home after work and grab a pair of socks from her sister at around 11 p.m.
I want to know what really happened, and if you're with friends, why they wouldn't call 911.
What was Kentia really doing in those crucial minutes? Why didn't she go back? And why did she wait 8 hours before finally mentioning Mia to the police? The answers would lead to a legal case that left many outraged. Stay with me, because this is just the beginning. The road was dark and silent when a passing driver noticed something unusual. It wasn't debris, wasn't a stray animal. This was different. The officers wasted no time. They began life-saving measures, working quickly in an attempt to stabilize her. A pulse was detected, but it was faint. The situation was critical. Within minutes, Southfield Fire and EMS arrived, their sirens piercing the early morning stillness. Paramedics took over, securing the victim onto a stretcher and rushing her toward the ambulance. The destination was Providence Hospital, a few miles away. They knew that every second counted. As medical professionals worked to keep Mia Kanu alive, officers remained at the scene, searching for answers. A perimeter was set up. Flashlights scanned the asphalt, looking for anything that could explain how she had ended up there. Then they found something, the first real clue, a trail of vomit near the curb. A subtle detail, but a crucial one. They followed the faint markings on the pavement, leading them further up the road. A piece of a cell phone case, a single sneaker. Evidence that whatever had happened, it hadn't been instant. Mia had fallen or been ejected from a moving vehicle. The question was, how? At 5:41, as Mia fought for her life in the hospital, Southfield detectives arrived at the scene. These were seasoned investigators, trained to read the silent stories left behind at crime scenes. Their eyes moved methodically across the area, noting every detail. They brought in the Faro 3D imaging system, a high-tech tool designed to create a digital reconstruction of the scene. Every measurement, every angle, every possible point of impact would be documented. By morning, word had started to spread. A woman had been found in the middle of the road, alone, critically injured, but there was no immediate suspect, no witnesses coming forward, no clear explanation. Then came the second call. A 23-year-old woman had walked into the Detroit Police Department's 5th precinct hours earlier. Her complaint? That her boyfriend had stolen her phone. She had been visibly intoxicated, her words slightly slurred. But she never mentioned an accident, never said a word about her best friend lying in the street, dying. That woman was Kentia Fern. The pieces weren't adding up. Why would someone go to the police over a missing phone but fail to report a serious accident? Why had no one from the car called 911? What kind of person keeps driving after someone falls from their vehicle? It wasn't until later that day, 8 hours after Mia had been found, that Kensha finally walked into the Southfield Police Department. She was accompanied by another friend. This time, her story changed. She told officers that she had been driving the Jeep, that Mia had been in the back seat. She claimed they had been out drinking and that at some point Mia had woken up, grabbed her phone, and then jumped out of the moving vehicle. Detectives listened carefully. It was a convenient explanation, one that absolved her of responsibility, but something didn't feel right. Later, as officers reviewed surveillance footage from a nearby apartment complex, the truth became harder to deny. A silver Jeep Compass was seen driving down the road at the exact time of the incident. No sudden braking, no hesitation. The vehicle never stopped. Mia didn't jump, she fell, and Kensha had kept going. More disturbing details surfaced. Kensha had returned to the scene after dropping off a friend at an apartment complex. She saw the flashing lights of the ambulance and police cars but still said nothing. If she was so concerned about Mia's whereabouts, why hadn't she approached the officers? Why hadn't she asked if they had seen her? The investigators had their doubts. The timeline didn't lie. Mia was discovered at 4:32, just 3 minutes after she fell. The evidence showed that she had been alive when she hit the ground. If Kensha had stopped immediately, called for help, turned the car around, Mia might have had a chance. Instead, she was left there. The investigation was only beginning, but one thing was becoming clear. Whatever had happened that night, Kensha Fearon was not telling the whole story. Stay with me, because what happened next would send shockwaves through everyone who knew Mia Kanu. Mia Kanu arrived at Providence Hospital in critical condition. Her injuries were extensive, the damage severe. The impact of the fall had left her body broken, but the doctors did everything they could. Machines kept her alive, tubes and monitors surrounding her fragile frame. Her family rushed to the hospital, their emotions swinging between hope and devastation. They held on to the belief that she might pull through, but deep down the medical team knew the chances were slim. She remained on life support for 2 days. For 48 hours, her loved ones stood by her side, praying for a miracle, but the damage was irreversible. At 4:44 in the afternoon on June 5, 2023, Mia was declared deceased. The young woman who had once been so full of life, who had dreams of helping animals, was gone, and the person responsible had yet to face any real consequences. As investigators worked through the case, one thing became clear. Kensha Fearon's version of events didn't match reality. Her first statement to police was that she had been out with Mia, they had been drinking, and at some point during the drive, Mia jumped from the moving vehicle. She made it sound like a reckless decision, a sudden, impulsive act, but the evidence told a different story. Mia's autopsy and toxicology report revealed that she had a blood alcohol level of 0.21%, nearly 3 times the legal limit. She had been intoxicated, but there were no drugs in her system. This detail mattered because it ruled out the possibility that she had been impaired beyond reason. If she had truly jumped, there should have been evidence, an abrupt movement, signs of struggle, or some indication that she had intended to leave the car. Instead, there was something else. Vomit was found on the car door and in the roadway. This was significant. It suggested that Mia hadn't been trying to escape. She had likely been feeling sick, attempting to lean out of the car. She had lost balance, fallen, and hit the ground hard. A terrible accident, one that could have been survivable if help had arrived in time. But it didn't. Because Kensha Fearon kept driving. When pressed about why she never called for help, her second statement shifted. She now claimed that she hadn't realized Mia had fallen at first. But this too made little sense. Mia was in the backseat of the Jeep. The moment she fell, there would have been movement, a sound, an undeniable shift in weight. The idea that she simply hadn't noticed was difficult to believe. And then there was the most damning fact. Kensha saw the flashing lights of the ambulance and police cars when she returned to the area. She knew something had happened, yet she said nothing. If she had truly been searching for Mia, why hadn't she gone to the officers? Why hadn't she asked if they had seen her friend? Kensha's priorities that night were clear. She had rushed to the police station to report a stolen phone. Hours had passed before she even mentioned Mia's name. It was as if she had been hoping the problem would go away, that no one would connect the dots. The evidence was mounting and detectives knew it was time to bring charges. But the legal system doesn't always deliver the justice people expect. What happened next left many outraged. Stay with me because the courtroom battle was about to begin. On September 19, 2023, more than 3 months after Mia Kanu's death, law enforcement finally made an arrest. Kenthia Fearn was taken into custody at a clothing store she owned and operated. It wasn't an intense manhunt. There were no dramatic chases, no desperate attempts to evade authorities. She had been living her life as if nothing had happened. While Mia's family grieved, Kenthia had moved forward, until the weight of the evidence caught up with her. The Oakland County Prosecutor's Office charged her with 2 offenses, leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death and operating while intoxicated. The first charge was a felony, carrying a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison and a $5,000 fine. The second was a misdemeanor, punishable by 93 days in jail and a $500 fine. When Kenthia stood before the judge for her arraignment on September 20th, she showed little emotion. The charges were read, the legal process set in motion, a personal recognizance bond of $3,000 was granted, meaning she didn't have to pay anything up front to be released. Her only restriction, she was ordered to have no contact with Mia's family. For many, the response from the justice system felt inadequate. A young woman had lost her life. She had been left in the road like an afterthought, abandoned by someone she had once called a friend. And yet the person responsible was out on bond within hours. Mia's family, already devastated by their loss, now faced the frustration of knowing that the legal system might not deliver the justice they were hoping for. Her mother, Bianca Van Meter, expressed cautious optimism, saying she believed more details would come out. But as the case moved forward, the reality of what they were up against became clear. On October 23rd, Kenthia pleaded no contest to the charges.
I'm hurting still. I think about her every day, and we're still fighting for her, fighting for justice, and I think that just keeping her name out there and doing the good things that she was doing with community service and with her school, I think keeping her name alive is important.
But the penalties for these offenses were limited by law. When the sentencing was announced, the outcome left many in disbelief. 3 months in the Oakland County Jail, 3 years of probation, that was it. 3 months behind bars for leaving her best friend to die in the middle of the road. 3 months for failing to stop, failing to call for help, failing to show even the most basic human decency. Mia's mother sat in the courtroom as the sentence was handed down. There was no comfort in the judge's decision, no sense that this punishment fit the crime. She had wanted more accountability, more acknowledgement of what had been taken from her family, but the law had spoken. The case was officially closed, but the anger surrounding it was just beginning. People wanted answers. They wanted to know, was this really justice? The courtroom doors closed, the case was officially over, but outside, the outrage was only beginning. News of Kenthia Fearn's 3-month jail sentence spread quickly, and for many it was a bitter pill to swallow. A young woman was dead, a life was taken, and yet the person responsible would serve less time than some people do for minor drug offenses or unpaid traffic tickets. The punishment felt insultingly light, leaving Mia Kanu's family, friends, and even strangers questioning whether justice had truly been served. Mia's mother, Bianca Van Meter, had held on to hope that the legal system would deliver something meaningful, something that would reflect the gravity of what had happened. Instead, she watched as the person who had left her daughter on the pavement to die was handed a mere 90-day sentence. The pain was unbearable, but worse than that was the message it sent. What kind of precedent did this set? What did it say about the value of a life? Public reaction was swift. Social media erupted with frustration, disbelief, and sorrow. People who had never met Mia took to online platforms, sharing their anger over what they saw as a failure of the justice system. Her story became a cautionary tale, a warning about the consequences, or lack thereof, for reckless and selfish decisions. Some focused on the legal loopholes that allowed Kenthia to receive such a minimal sentence. In Michigan, leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death carries a maximum of 5 years. But actual sentencing depends on circumstances and plea deals. In this case, there had been no trial, no drawn-out legal battle, just a quiet plea that ended in a short jail stay and a probationary period. Others turned their attention to Kenthia's behavior in the aftermath. In the months following her release, she didn't express public remorse or accountability. There were no heartfelt apologies, no visible efforts to make amends. She had returned to her life, free to move forward, while Mia's family remained trapped in an endless cycle of grief. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of this case was that Mia had loved Kenthia. They had spent countless hours together, sharing moments, trusting one another. For Mia's family, it was devastating to realize that in the end, that trust had not been reciprocated. The conversation about fake friends gained traction in the wake of Mia's death. People reflected on their own relationships, wondering if they, too, had someone in their circle who wouldn't stop for them, who wouldn't pick up the phone in an emergency. It was a chilling thought, one that resonated deeply with those following the case. But amidst the anger and frustration, one thing was clear. Mia's story wasn't going to be forgotten. Her family was determined to make sure of that. Her name would not fade into the background, and the fight for accountability was far from over. Mia Kanu's life was taken too soon, but even in death she continued to give. She was an organ donor, a decision she had made long before that tragic night. It was a selfless choice, one that spoke volumes about the kind of person she was. On June 8, 2023, as her family gathered for their final goodbyes, doctors prepared for her walk of honor, a solemn procession through the hospital halls as she was moved to donate her organ. Among those who received the gift of life that day was an infant, a child whose future was saved because of Mia's generosity. For her family, this was a small comfort in the midst of unbearable grief. Mia had always been someone who looked out for others, and now she was helping strangers in a way most never get the chance to. But even with this act of kindness, the pain of losing her never faded. Her mother, Bianca Van Meter, often spoke about the emptiness left behind. Birthdays, holidays, ordinary moments. They would never be the same. Beyond personal grief, Mia's death raised larger questions about justice and accountability. Her case wasn't just about one reckless decision, it was about the failures that allowed a young woman to be left behind on the road for hours with no one coming to her aid. It was about how friendship can be a dangerous illusion and how some people you trust may not be there for you when it matters most. Many still struggle to understand how someone could drive away after a friend falls from their vehicle, how a missing phone could take priority over a life. The reality is, not everyone in your circle wants the best for you. Some people are only there for the good times, but when real loyalty is tested, they disappear. Mia believed she had a friend that night, but when it mattered most, she was left alone in the dark. Her story serves as a reminder to be careful who you trust. If there's one thing viewers should take from this case, it's this: pay attention to the people around you. Notice who checks on you, who truly cares, and who would stop for you if you were in trouble. Because when the moment comes, some people will keep driving. Mia's family continues to honor her memory, sharing her story so that her life isn't reduced to just another tragic statistic. They hope that by speaking out they can prevent another senseless loss, another betrayal disguised as friendship. If Mia's story impacted you, let us know in the comments. Do you think justice was served? Do you believe Kentia Fern's sentence was enough? Let's talk about it. If you found this case important, hit the like button so more people can see it. And if you want more true crime stories that deserve attention, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Stay safe, be mindful of who you trust, and we'll see you in the next one.